Velkommen til et nytt program på Israelkanalen. Denne gangen så skal vi til Oslo Symposium, der vi skal møte Israels ambassadør, Alon Roth. Følg med på dette.
Thank you very much. You know, usually when diplomats will tell you that they are moved, well, ask yourself a question, are they really moved? But I can attest and I can assure you that I'm moved now. Because even though every Israeli diplomat, and especially Israeli ambassador, has to have some kind of metal shield around him, because you know the task and the jobs are not very easy, you need sometimes a hug from a friend, from a family, and this is what I feel now, seeing you, looking at you, hearing you. So even before I begin, I want to thank you. First of all, of course, I want to thank the organizers, where they are Doug, who already took half of my speech with what he said. And to thank you, not just for coming here to this symposium, for this day, but I've already met few of you, many of you, in several places in Oslo and beyond. And I really want to thank you in advance, even before I begin to speak, for your help, for your dedication, for your questions, for your remarks, for your advices, very wise advices usually, for us, for Israel, in order to have not just better Israel and stronger Israel, but to have better and stronger Israeli-Norwegian ties. I'm a second generation or a first generation of two Jews who came from the war. My father was a kind of Holocaust survivor as a child. Hungary, Romania, ran away with the family. Most of the family didn't come back. My mother is from Poland. You know, the usual Israeli Jewish story. And it's terrible. It's terrible that so many years later, so many decades later, we are still standing here and going to talk and to hear very, very, very interesting and wise things about this terrible malady, this terrible thing called anti-Semitism. The fact that we still have to discuss this issue with you, between us, between yourselves, is already a huge question mark on the whole humanity. The fact that we still know that it will continue, unfortunately, because we see what we see today, and I'm going to say a few words about it, and I'm sure that the other interlocutors speaking later on are going to speak about it, is a huge question mark on what times are we living and why didn't we learn the unfortunate advice we got 75 years ago. But permit me to begin in a different place. Because, you know, as I said, as an Israeli diplomat, events in Israel are happening almost in a light speed. It's not weeks and months and years until something happens. It happens in Israel in a question of minutes and hours. And you all know what happened yesterday. You know about the missiles that were targeting Israel. You know about our abilities to stop, or this time not to stop the missiles. But permit me to begin elsewhere, because I want to begin with a smile on my face before I speak about these grim issues. And the smile on the face is linked directly to the whole idea of my talk, which is cooperate and not just fight. And this is the fact that last week, or in the last 2 weeks, 4 or 5 or 6 Israeli companies, high-tech companies, that are producing the most sophisticated stuff in the world, were sold in prices up to $2 billion. Quite heavy. But I am not here in order to speak with you about money. not by the financial, I would say, status of these companies or the state of Israel. But for example, the last company that was sold yesterday, a health tech company, in the area of operations, shoulder operations, for those who want to know, is a symbol of what is Israel of today. Not just fighting the missiles that are coming from Gaza or from the north, from Lebanon, from the Hezbollah, or one day, unfortunately, from Iran, and we will talk about this in a minute. But creation of good things, creation of the best technology available, creation of the things that are impossible to create, so let's create them. In health, in agriculture, in water management, in computer, in saving and guarding everything that is important for us. This is modern Israel. This I would call Israel beyond anti-Semitism. Israel beyond the regional problematics that we all talk about and I will talk about a lot about. This is the real Israel, and this is what I am proud of, and this is why I would like to see more and more of it within Israel and between Israel and Norway. The finance minister that stood here a few minutes ago and said such heartwarming things and such wise things about issues that are not related to Israel spoke about trusting our neighbors or trusting your neighbors. I don't have to tell you this is not the situation in the Middle East. We cannot trust for the time being our neighbors. For the time being, the situation of Israel is almost the same situation as it used to be 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago, security-wise. Not concerning our capabilities, they are much better. But still, the existence of the state of Israel is in question on a daily basis, every day and day. Unfortunately, it is not being echoed on that way in the media, not just in the Norwegian media, in other medias as well. But it's deeper than that. Culture of hatred, of death, is unfortunately around us. We don't see many countries around us that are investing in education and in medicine and in tech, in high tech and in innovation and in health. This is the neighborhood we live in. This is our reality as was described by the speaker before me. And Israel is still fighting for its life. It sounds terrible. It sounds terrible for an Israeli to say it, but this is reality. This is the gruesome reality in which we live. So when we talk about anti-Semitism, we should talk about anti-Semitism in the world, yes. We should talk about anti-Semitism on the rise in Europe, yes. But don't forget the connections. Don't forget to connect it, please, to the situation of Israel in the Middle East itself, to the fact that on a daily basis this country is still fighting. And it's sometimes difficult for us to see connections. We prefer to see the items one by one. But when we look at it, when we look at the rising anti-Semitism in certain places, including in Europe, and I don't have to tell you what is happening in countries like France and beyond, we see it in the mirror of the existential threat and the existential fight that the Jewish people in the Jewish state, in the Jewish land, is still fighting nowadays, including this morning, including last night. And unfortunately, it is connected to the classical anti-Semitism. I don't have to preach you. I'm sure that all of you know what I'm talking about. And to modern anti-Semitism, that unfortunately can be found today on the fringes in the right, on the fringes in the left. Unfortunately, this unholy alliance is there, is augmenting the classical anti-Semitism. The questioning that we are still hearing in fora all around the world, here and there, about the right of the Jewish people to have a state. The fact that You are for it. The fact that, of course, I'm for it is not being shared by everyone. And you can see time and again, and coming up again and again, more and more, the call of a country like Iran to annihilate, to destroy the state of Israel, to erase it from the face of earth. And this is something that we in Israel hear every week. Every week. The distortion of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Yes, we are for questioning. If you open an Israeli newspaper, and you can do it in the internet, you will see how much we question ourselves. You can never come to the same rate in which we question ourselves. In the internal criticism of Israel, within Israel, believe me, you can't. You are too polite for this. We Israelis, we are less polite. But there is a fundamental difference between this kind of criticism and distortion. Distortion that is coming into effect when you look on what's happening in the United Nations. When you look on the unbelievable dozens of declarations, unbelievable numbers of declarations against and resolutions against the state of Israel, when a country that is to be found in the north border of Israel, that has killed 600,000 of its own citizens, 600,000, it's difficult to grasp the number, and had only one resolution against it. I do not compare us to them, but you understand exactly what is happening there. The barbarians are not being criticized, but a democracy, a full democracy, with the same values as you have, and the same values that we want to have, is being denounced almost on a one-monthly basis, if not more than that. And this is something that accumulates, and worse than that. An issue again that the finance minister touched, the issue of boycotts. I don't have to tell you what the feeling of the Jewish people, of the Jewish human being, myself, when I hear that you are an entity, you are a people that should be boycotted. When you hear this, you understand that the demons of the past are here live and kicking. Total discrimination against Israeli products, against those products who are giving us better health, better security, better life. If you're young, it's innovation. If you're less young, then those are the products that we need in order to have good quality of life. Against this, you discriminate? If this is not anti-Semitism, I don't know what anti-Semitism is. Values. I think that this is the issue that touches most our hearts when we talk about values. Because when we analyze ourselves, when we Israelis, we look inside and we say to ourselves, hey, don't forget, in the end, we are a group of refugees from Europe, 1 million refugees from the Arab lands, Jews that were expelled in the 40s from the Arab land. Country of refugees, and I don't have to tell you where we are today, 80 years later, trying to think what will be the next Nobel Prize we will get, or trying to think what is the next contribution that we can make for agriculture in arid areas in Africa, or in China, or everywhere in the world. This is Israel. The same values, the creation, the life, the contribution to the world, the thriving economy, the freedom of press, the freedom of speech, democracy, human rights. This is Israel. People tend to forget. Please remind them this. This is the Israel that they want to boycott. And I ask those who want to boycott, whether they are on the personal level or sometimes on municipal level, I ask them, so are your values the values of Israel, or are your values the values of the Middle East around Israel? Because this is the choice that you are doing. If you don't choose Israel, you've chosen the other side. Are those the values? The only democracy in the Middle East is being pushed aside and you are working with the others? Even from the values point of view, which is the main point of view that is being put forward, when you analyze it, and it's very simple to analyze it, you understand that no, with Israel you have to cooperate, not to boycott. When I came to Norway, and I can't believe it's 6 months ago only, for me it looks like 3 years, which means that I enjoy, which means that I love this sport, which means that I love this country. I saw in front of my eyes a country that is enshrining dialogue, mutual cooperation, any kind of cooperation, conversations, discussions, exactly like we do in Israel. That's wonderful. So I couldn't understand how in a country that, in a society that enshrines these values, which are our values in the end, these kind of boycotting of I'm not going to talk to you can be even done in whatever level. And this is something that I think we should fight against, apart from what we do in the fight against anti-Semitism, because this is even worse or at least equal to the danger that is in anti-Semitism, because when you boycott and you put aside and you don't dialogue and you don't talk, terrible things are happening. And we have too many historical examples. There are lots of interlocutors behind me, after me, who are going to speak and to say very wise things about anti-Semitism. I'm not going to compete with them. But I want to say that we all agree, I think, that we are in a very historical moment. As I said in the beginning, I, as a still young son of the Jewish people, I cannot believe that so many years later we are still speaking about anti-Semitism. But the voices, and you know what, not just the voices, the smell that we have in our nose shows us that this terrible phenomena is coming up. You are wiser than me. Most of you are more experienced than me. I'm sure that you will agree with me that this is the time, and maybe this is the last opportunity that we have in order to really fight this beast. Not just to declare good, wonderful, positive declarations. Not just to put action plans on papers. Time for real work, time for real actions is needed, at least in 2 or 3 places. One is the legal fight against anti-Semitism. We cannot see how legal authorities, how legal leaders are seeing anti-Semitism in front of their eyes and are dismissing it aside and are not taking action, real actions, that are enabled by the law. This is something that is undone. The next thing is the whole issue of education. We have a problem with education. Again, I don't have to tell you. When you educate a child, a youngster, the fruits of this tree will be bared only in 10, 15, 20 years' time. But anti-Semitism is here already now. How do we gap this kind of problem? I don't know. But I know only one thing. We have to do it now. The education system must be more persistent and everywhere. Everywhere, it means everywhere. All over Europe and beyond Europe. I don't have to tell you what happened in Argentina a few weeks ago, etc., etc. The fight in the front of education should begin, and as I said, with tangible results and actions. And the timeline should begin today. And price. we do believe that in the end, when we are dealing with anti-Semitism, the question of price is very important. Those who are anti-Semite, those who are doing anti-Semite actions should feel that there is a price to be paid. It can be a legal price, it can be a societal price, but there should be a price to be paid. For the time being, unfortunately, from Israeli point of view, we don't see them paying the price, or at least not enough. And we do think that the legal tools are there. They just should be used. And I think that your actions pushing towards this, demanding it, is something that is more than needed. We might be in the last possible time of taking real actions in order to move things forward. But I don't want to finish my speech by talking more and more about anti-Semitism. I want to finish it, as I said, with friends, with family, with a smile on my face, with good prospects, with a vision forward. And I think that against anti-Semitism and against boycott, there is one wonderful weapon: cooperation. Cooperation, cooperation, and cooperation. Cooperation in innovation for youngsters, cooperation in economy for less young people, etc., etc. Cooperation and innovation and lots of things that can link the two societies, the Norwegian society, the Israeli societies, because, as I said, the values are the same. And when I look on the youngsters, on the Norwegian youngsters, and I saw them in the Oslo Innovation Week, I saw the same bright eyes that I see in Israeli youngsters, my kids, for example. So I can compare. And I think that apart from the legal tools, apart from the education, apart from penal codes, apart from action plans, please help us to link people. Please help us to link people in order to know each other better, in order to throw away all those beliefs that are nonsense, and cooperate, not boycott. This should be our goal and our action plan. And what can be better in order to finish my talk than to speak about cooperation in the field of innovation, in this beautiful field that can enable us to do things that are beyond imagination. And I want to combine two things that I've said: the trial of Israel to be an innovative country, a country that contributes to the human race, a country that is giving a bit to the global effort to be a bit better, to have better life, better quality of life, and to help those who are a bit less fortunate. Those are big words, but I want to show you that an Israeli company, quite young, I must say, isn't it? We can call it a quite young company, named Orcam, has produced something very nice. You can even see it today in the streets of Norway, but you can see it everywhere in the world, and I have no doubt that in the future you will see it more and more. And this is innovation that has nothing to do with security, nothing to do with a fight against anti-Semitism, just pure innovation. Permit me to put this on my face. And to shut up my mouth for a second.
Til tross for rakettene som blir skutt mot Israel, til tross for truslene om tilintetgjøring av staten Israel, til tross for voksende antisemitisme i verden, til tross for rop om boykott mot den jødiske staten og dets produkter.
There may be more text below. Please raise the text and try again.
It's me because I'm not used to it. Can it work?
Reading resumed.
Til tross for rop om boikott mot den jødiske staten og dets produkter, oppstartsnasjonen vil fortsette å skape kunst og kultur, og spesielt produkter for menneskers velferd, som meg, organ, apparatet som snakker til deg nå og gir tilbake synet til millioner av synshemmede og blinde mennesker. Nok en israelsk teknologi til glede for oss alle.
Thank you very much.
Det var det vi hadde for denne gangen. Følg oss gjerne på sosiale medier. Og dersom du ønsker å abonnere på vårt månedlige nyhetsbrev på e-post, så ta gjerne kontakt med oss, så skal vi fikse det. Tusen takk for at du har fulgt oss gjennom programmet, og på gjensyn igjen neste uke. Takk for nå.